A bolt of lightning blasted a slab of ancient stone out of the white jade steps. On it, words were carved in blood. The Lee clan's loyal and good were wronged and died unjustly. Part of this heaven sacrifice had been meant to soothe the wronged spirit of Consort Lee of Osprey Palace. And calamity fell from the sky, and this blood-written message appeared. When Empress Chen heard, she was so frightened she fainted on the spot. Consort Yao couldn't even hold on to her bowl. The ginger tea crashed to the floor. After the rain eased, I stood under the corridor eaves, drinking ginger tea. I watched strings of droplets fall from the roof and strike the green bricks, gathering into little pools. At some point, sunlight slipped back out. Quietly, it drank up the scattered patches of water. Some childhood memories surfaced. Alexander Lee was someone my mother had picked up. When he first came to our home, he was always fighting with me for mother's attention. Every night he had nightmares, crying himself awake, and my mother always had to soothe him. He wore a beautiful jade pendant engraved with the character Lee. But my mother hid it away. She said his surname was Lee. Maybe Alexander Lee's surname was Lee. From the haunting at Osprey Palace to this heaven sacrifice, it had all been pushed forward by Alexander Lee. Why had he entered the palace back then? It had to be connected to the Lee clan who died unjustly. I suddenly sneezed. A red cloak fell over my shoulders. Alexander Lee had arrived without me noticing. He stood beside me. After a long silence, he asked in a muffled voice, "Is what you said last night still true?" He'd been caught in the rain too. His nose was stuffed up, his voice thick. He held a bowl of scalding ginger tea, eyes lowered as he blew on it to cool it. It was rare to see Alexander Lee this subdued. Even that flamboyant scarlet flying fish robe looked gentler on him. It could have softened anyone's heart. But that kind of pity was bad for both him and me. We were both half a step into the underworld, living in endless night. If we clung to fantasies and craved the bright warmth of daylight, we would shatter, never to be reborn. Last night we agreed. Bridge is bridge, road is road. We would not provoke each other again. Lord Governor Lee should be ruthless. He should recognize no kin, spare no means, stay cold and calculating. Only then could he sit steady as head of the Eastern Depot. Consort Ellie should keep up appearances, flatter and lie, stay heartless and detached. Only then could I keep my insignificant life. He would remain above everyone. I would remain beneath everyone. Each of us would rely on our own skill and walk our own path into darkness. That was the road each of us should take. No entanglements braining. Neither of us would become the other's burden. Neither of us would become the other's weakness. I finished my ginger tea and looked up at him. Today, consider it a favor I owe you. If I get the chance, I'll repay it. What I said last night still stands. You and I go our separate ways and leave each other alone. He stopped drinking. He lifted his eyes, icy and sharp, and stared at me. Slowly, he sneered. So your heart is forged of iron. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't bleed. Unlike me, mine is flesh and blood. It bleeds, it aches, and again I do something stupid, hand it to you and let you crush it. Clang. He hurled the scalding porcelain bowl into one of the puddles beneath the corridor. Shards burst everywhere. Expressionless, I said coldly, "Lord Governor Lee, I have no heart, and I never wanted yours." He ground his teeth and laughed bitterly. "I'm the one being cheap. There won't be a next time." He kicked the railing and stormed off, the little house slave. The more power he gained, the worse that temper got. But who, exactly, was he throwing it at? He knew. Smarter than anyone, Lord Governor Lee knew this was right. It was the most rational choice for both of us. Sometimes it isn't about what you want, it's about what you should do. We weren't children. Lucas Shen, that vicious wolf, was still circling. No matter what, I couldn't let people bully my own servant. Besides, I was quite interested in dancing with wolves. If Lucas Shen believed I loved him, believed poor Consort Ellie was hopelessly devoted, if he thought I was a fool, even better. As long as he didn't take me seriously, the moment he exposed his back, I could put a knife into it. We returned to the palace. The heaven sacrifice had failed. The old emperor was gravely ill, on the brink of death. Then something eerie happened. The old emperor actually summoned me alone. Me, the insignificant Consort Ellie. It was unbelievable. The lamplight flickered. The old emperor on the sickbed looked like a skeleton on the verge of rot. Wine and lust had hollowed him out. His body was withered, his cloudy eyes staring blankly at the canopy above. I sat by the edge of his bed, quietly peeling a pear. "Ellie, lately I often dream of your mother. She's still so young, so beautiful, wearing a white dress, smiling at me." He was dying, so of course he was confused. Only in confusion could he indulge such delusions, thinking my mother would smile at him. Disgusting. But I couldn't say it. I just kept peeling the rough skin with a small knife, smiling, listening to his memories. Maybe it was a final flash of clarity. He spoke of many things I'd never known, secrets about my mother, and the story of Consort Lee. My mother and Consort Lee were born on the same day. They were known as the two greatest beauties of Jinan City. My mother was a pure lotus in clear water. Consort Lee was a peony fit to topple a nation. My mother came from a wealthy merchant family, money. Consort Lee came from a noble house, power. The two most outstanding women in Jinan were close friends. On their 15th birthday, they met the Son of Heaven. That was where the tragedy began. Consort Lee fell in love with the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven fell in love with my mother. My mother fell in love with Consort Lee's elder brother. This tangled mislove might not have become tragedy. But once power intervened and greed and obsession took hold, a chain of accidents became a catastrophe. The newly enthroned Son of Heaven married Consort Lee to stabilize his rule. My mother and Consort Lee's brother were deeply in love, already engaged, not yet married. But one day, Consort Lee became pregnant. My mother entered the palace to visit her. Someone led her into an empty, cold palace. There, the Son of Heaven forced himself on her. He wanted to compel my mother to enter the palace, but she would rather die than submit. Consort Lee used the Lee clan's influence to protect her, and the matter was dropped. At that time, Consort Lee's brother was away at war. When Lee's father learned my mother had been violated, he immediately broke off the engagement. My mother spent a year at Poti Temple. Consort Lee's brother still hadn't returned. Then my mother gave birth to a child. That child was taken to the Grand Tutor's household. Soon, my grandfather married my mother off to the Tan family as a concubine. If back then Consort Lee hadn't been bedridden with an unstable pregnancy, perhaps she could have helped my mother. Or if Consort Lee's brother had returned to the city one step earlier, maybe he could have taken my mother back. But the world always conspires in tragic coincidence. On the second day after my mother married into the Tan family, Consort Lee's brother returned in triumph. Everything was already decided. My mother lived in despair in the Tan household. At first, my worthless father coveted her beauty and her wealth and favored her greatly. But later, on the way to worship, my mother was kidnapped by bandits. Months passed. Consort Lee's brother went to suppress the bandits. By then, my mother was pregnant. I was that bastard child. My mother was seen as unfaithful and unclean. But she still had a rich dowry. While she lived, the Tan family didn't dare drive us out. They still wanted to cling to her and suck out the last drop of blood. The quiet lamplight jumped as a breeze passed. The old emperor looked dead, eyes closed, hands folded over his chest. But he wasn't dead. A faint breath still slipped past his nose. The smile on my face sank into shadow. I asked him, "Then, is the crown prince and one of your consorts a brother and sister with the same mother and different fathers?" Had the world gone mad? For a long time, no one answered this absurd question. I thought he'd died. I was about to ring the bell when the old emperor suddenly reached out that twig-like hand and clutched mine. In a muddy, feeble voice, he said, "I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. The crown prince is not the crown prince. He isn't my son at all. My son, the son I had with Amanda, is Alexander Lee." Amanda was my mother. It struck like thunder. All the strength drained from my body in that one sentence. Absurd, ridiculous, impossible. The old emperor had only one last breath left. He had no time to tell me how he discovered the mistake, or how he confirmed Alexander Lee was his son. With his final breath, he only told me this. He said he would depose the crown prince. He would have his true son ascend the throne. He said the edict he left was hidden in the imperial prison of the Eastern Depot. He said he would leave a final command. I was to become Empress Dowager. I was to find the right moment and support my brother, Alexander Lee, in taking the throne. The dying lamplight finally went out. I rang the bronze bell. A flood of palace servants rushed in. I stood in the doorway like a walking corpse, the wind stinging my eyes. The emperor was dead. Empress Chen and I became Empress Dowager at the same time. I was the Western Empress Dowager. She was the Eastern Empress Dowager. Lucas Shen temporarily took the throne. A funeral began inside the palace. When night fell, everything in sight was bleak. White drapes, white lanterns, white candles. A sea of white, dim and desolate. Empress Chen had already cried until she fainted. And I, this unexpectedly young Empress Dowager, did my duty, wailing and keeping vigil. The rites were overseen by Alexander Li. We inevitably met in the mourning hall. My eyes ached from crying. I leaned against a pillar and rubbed my eyelids. Lucas Shen placed a hand on my shoulder, patting my back as he spoke softly. Mother Empress Dowager, don't grieve too much. Alexander Li came several times to ask for instructions. His gaze was calm. He treated me like a stranger. If only we truly were strangers, unrelated. Even enemies would be better. Anything was better than being brother and sister. When I went to the back hall to rest, I met him head-on. He glanced at me coldly and brushed past, but his indifferent voice fell like a cold drizzle in early spring, light and soft, yet chilling to the bone. Congratulations, Consort Ellie. You got everything you wanted. I couldn't say a word. I only tilted my face into the draft and fanned my aching eyes. After a while, it felt pointless. An Empress Dowager keeping vigil had every right to cry. No one needed an explanation. I could weep freely. No one would find it strange. At night, only Lucas Shen and I remained on vigil. I burned paper money into a copper basin with a numb expression. I watched the blue-green flame curl smoke into the air. I watched the heat lick my fingertips, pricking little by little, slowly pulling sensation back. At some point, the doors were shut. The soul-summoning bells under the eaves swayed with a sinister clink. I didn't feel when Lucas Shen embraced me, not until his fingertips slid along my throat and down to the hollow at my collarbone. The cold seeped through my skin into my limbs. I stared at him in shock. This was the mourning hall. A coffin was right there. The corpse inside wasn't even cold. He hooked my waist and pressed me against an icy pillar. Long, snow-white drapes floated down and covered us. Wreaths stood nearby. The white candles on tall stands flickered, throwing our tangled shadows into light, then snuffing them out. Lucas Shen, you're insane. I heard my own voice. Hoarse like gravel, thick with grief. He didn't react. With cold fingers, he groped at me without restraint. I'm not insane. Ellie, from the day you offered yourself to him, I've been waiting for this day. I finally got it. He's dead. He's finally dead. I want you, right here in his mourning hall, to be my woman again. I bit him hard and shoved. Lucas Shen, aren't you disgusted? I served his bed. In a contest of brute strength, women always lose. I couldn't move him an inch. Instead, he held me tighter, pressed closer. He licked my lips and laughed low. Ellie, don't lie to me. You vomited every time after serving. How did you serve him? I froze. How do you know? He laughed even more shamelessly. The medicine to make you vomit was mine. Of course I know. Then he said sharply, Ellie, you will only ever be my woman. A cold hand slipped beneath the hem of my clothes. A shiver ran over my skin. When his palm covered that soft curve, fear surged from every direction. In panic, my mind cleared in an instant. If he took me, he would discover I'd lost my chastity. He would learn Alexander Li's secret. I clenched my teeth and forced down the terror. I grabbed his arm and soothed him with the most useless, most cowardly thing, tears. Brother Shen, in your heart, am I worse than a prostitute? He paused and studied me with those deep bluish eyes. I bit my lip and kept crying. You just use me to vent. In a place like this, doing this filthy thing? Even prostitutes at least do it in a bed. Is this how you trample my feelings for you? I watched him closely. His expression loosened little by little. The lust in his eyes softened. He tested me carefully. Ellie, do you still have any real feelings for me? I covered my face with a handkerchief and sobbed. Whether I do or not, what does it matter? You never care anyway. If I said yes outright, he would suspect me. Only if I acted coy and jealous would he believe it was sincere. Through the handkerchief, I saw his face change completely. I sneered inside. He let me go. This time he only held me close, his voice threaded with joy he could barely hide. It matters. Ellie, I thought you'd never forgive me in this lifetime. As long as you still have feelings for me, that's enough. I twined a strand of his hair around my fingertip and murmured, but what then? We're destined to miss each other. I'm Empress Dowager. You're the Emperor. He covered the back of my hand with his and spoke gently. Ellie, we can be together forever, if no one stands in my way. I feigned innocence. Oh, Brother Shen, you've already taken the throne. Who can stop you? His gaze turned cold. If Alexander Lai doesn't die, my throne won't be secure, I said softly. Too bad I can't help you with anything. He stared into my eyes and coaxed. Ellie, don't you know Alexander Lai's secret? Tell me. I leaned into his chest as if intimate, lowered my head, and laughed sweetly. I know. Alexander Li's secret? Lucas Shen listened intently. I giggled. He likes Empress Chen. Silence fell. Lucas Shen pinched my chin and forced me to meet his eyes. Ellie, are you playing with me? I looked earnest. Brother Shen, what's there to play? He's entangled with Empress Chen. Isn't that a deadly secret? Look at how he does whatever she says. He even lingers at Phoenix Call Palace all the time. People in the palace say... Everyone in the palace knew what Lord Governor Li could do to please women. I knew it. They knew it. Lucas Shen knew it too. It was a widely known secret. But I wasn't lying. That truly was a secret I knew, one that could kill him. Lucas Shen cut me off, displeased. Enough. He was doubting me again. I let my smile fade, pushed him away, and walked toward the brazier with a sigh. Brother Shen, do you think Ellie is useless? Earlier you said you wanted to be with me forever. Was that just to placate me too? He hurried after me and seized my hand. He examined my face inch by inch. Only when he found no flaw did he answer. Ellie, why are you so guarded? I won't lie to you again. I sneered, shaking off his hand. Who's guarding against whom? Lucas Shen, I've given you my whole heart, and there hasn't been a moment you didn't want to use me. I'm just a woman. Don't bring that set of tricks you use on others to me. My sudden temper startled him. He forced down the suspicion rising again. He took my hand once more, patted my head, and spoke gently. Ellie, it's my fault. I'm anxious. I want to remove the obstacle between us as soon as possible. Don't be angry. I looked at him coldly, then slowly softened, giving him a step down, and a trap to step into. You think I don't want that? Do you know why the old emperor suddenly summoned me and made me Empress Dowager? Lucas Shen's face showed clear curiosity. Huh? He had wanted to ask long ago. The question must have turned in his mind 1,000 times. He just hadn't found the chance. Now that I offered it myself, it would completely ease his doubts. He told me to help you get rid of Alexander Li. I was confused too. Why did he think I could help? He said I've known Alexander Li a long time, so I might understand him better than others. That would make it easier to deal with him. But I think the old emperor was wrong. I'm just a woman. How would I understand such things? I'm sure you don't believe me either, so forget it. Just pretend I never said any of this. Forget it. I sighed and waved my hand. He gripped my hand and made up his mind. Ellie, I believe you. True and false, real and feigned, Lucas Shen believed me. I held his hand and scolded in a coquettish tone. If you doubt me again, I won't pay attention to you anymore. He hugged me lightly, resting his chin on the top of my head. I won't. Ellie, from now on we work together. I curved my lips. Together, to fulfill the old emperor's last wish. That night of vigil, I narrowly escaped disaster. I also gained something unexpected. Lucas Shen began to bear his back. Just a beginning. Lucas Shen left before I did. Clara came with a lantern to fetch me. I was exhausted and I chatted with her to ease the weariness. Mother Empress Dowager, Lord Governor Li is getting more and more frightening. Oh? How so? When I came, I ran into him. His face was dark, like someone dug up his ancestors' graves. Where did you run into him? Right outside the gate of the morning hall. He looked like he'd been standing there a long time. His hair was damp with cold dew. Suddenly, my feet felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds. I couldn't lift them. He heard everything, and now he would believe everything too. It felt as if something stabbed my heart, numb at first, then sharply aching. As Empress Dowager, I was very busy. Every day I had to invite noblewomen into the palace to chat and pass the time. Sometimes, when we talked happily, I even went out of the palace with them to stroll around. Of course, Lucas Shen had people watching me. At first they watched closely, but when he saw I was only eating, drinking, and amusing myself, he slowly relaxed. The matter of the blood-carved stone at the heaven sacrifice was not over. It stirred up a storm. 10,000 people signed petitions in blood, demanding a thorough investigation into the Li clan's wrongful case. Even now, the people of Jinan City remembered that young Li noble who once rode his horse and lounged against a bridge, drawing red-sleeved admirers from every tower, the young general, Julian Li. He died at his most brilliant moment, after defeating the enemy and leading his army home in triumph. Border blades, freezing wind, and bitter snow could not harm him. Yet Jinan City, in all its splendor, hemmed him in and slaughtered him without mercy. Back then, the Grand Tutor, Empress Chen's maternal family, Consort Yao's maternal family, and other senior ministers jointly submitted memorials accusing Julian Li of colluding with the enemy and committing treason. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered the extermination of the Li clan's 9 degrees of kin. The young general Julian Li, beloved by the people, died on the execution platform. The consort, in the bloom of youth, was strangled beneath the phoenix tree. Consort Li's little prince also died in an innocent, senseless fire. From that day on, the Li clan was wiped out. Lives could be erased, but justice stayed in people's hearts. Overnight, the call to clear the Li clan's name erupted throughout the land. The present Son of Heaven wanted to brush the case aside. After all, most of those implicated were his own allies. When he declared to the assembled officials, "Rumors among the people are not evidence," Lord Governor Li stepped forward. With a sweep of his hand, Eastern Depot agents dragged in a line of witnesses, whipped until their flesh was a bloody mess, those who had testified against the Li clan back then. Those witnesses had endured the Eastern Depot's prisons. They had walked through hell. They kowtowed again and again and poured out the truth in a single breath. Before all eyes, the Son of Heaven tried to offer more excuses. Lord Governor Li acted with brutal speed. He sneered at the Son of Heaven. "Your Majesty is burdened with affairs. I am willing to share your worries and investigate this thoroughly." "Alexander Li, you dare act on your own." The Son of Heaven stood atop the Golden Hall steps, face pale with fury. Lord Governor Li stood below, calm and unhurried. They held a stalemate for a moment. The Western Depot was blocked outside. The Eastern Depot surrounded the court. The embroidered uniform guards stood by and watched. Old ministers like the Grand Tutor, Chancellor Chen, and Chancellor Yao might have wanted to protect the Son of Heaven. But without troops, they had no voice. Chancellor Yao tried to intimidate Lord Governor Li with words. "Alexander Li, you've rebelled. I will impeach you for seizing power and plotting." No one even saw how Lord Governor Li moved. Only the spray of blood across the Golden Hall. His brows and eyes were strikingly beautiful, more vivid than the blood. He calmly wiped the blood from his embroidered spring saber, ordered Eastern Depot agents to drag the body away, then looked up and smiled warmly at the officials. "Chancellor Yao sowed discord between the Emperor and me. He deserved death. I removed a traitor at the Emperor's side. I've startled you all. Don't blame me." The hall fell silent. Everyone held their breath. When he finished, he fixed those gorgeous eyes on the Son of Heaven and said casually, "Your Majesty, shall I handle the investigation into the Li clan's injustice?" He wasn't asking, he was stating it, leaving no room to argue. The Son of Heaven collapsed into the dragon throne in panic, waving his hand. "I'll trouble you, Lord Governor." That night, Lucas Shen pinned me on the couch. He wanted comfort from my body. Feverish, he shoved my skirt into a wad at my waist. His hand slid in along the inside of my thigh, climbing higher. I quickly pressed his hand down and smiled softly. "Your Majesty, the court is unstable. You shouldn't indulge yourself in the inner palace. If word gets out that the Emperor and the Empress Dowager are committing incest, wouldn't that give people an even better handle against you?" Lucas Shen's eyes turned icy. He pulled his hand back, but he still buried his face in my neck, biting to vent. Only after a while did he lift his head and stare at me. "Mother Empress Dowager, are you truly thinking of me? Or do you simply not want to be intimate with me?" His gaze was like a mirror, meant to expose every thought. I put on a patient smile, slid my fingers into his hair, and gently kneaded his scalp to soothe him. I laughed softly. "Your temper is strange. You doubt me again for no reason. If you don't trust me, why come entangle yourself with me at all?" Lucas Shen loosened a little. He held my shoulder in silence for a moment, then said irritably, "That eunuch dog Alexander Li. One day I'll tear him to pieces." I sneered. "And do you have any way to deal with him?" Lucas Shen stroked my cheek, kissing me again and again. His rage eased and he said, If the embroidered uniform guard could be used by me, wiping out the Eastern Depot would only be a matter of time. Oh, do you already have an idea? He sneered. Their commander, Ethan Ning, is a fox. To this day he only watches from the sidelines. He refuses to place his bet. I rested my cheek obediently against his arm and said with a cold smile, "Everyone has a weakness. Greed for money, greed for power, or lust. Your Majesty should play to his desires and move when the moment comes." Lucas Shen pinched my chin, peering into my eyes and sighed. "You're clever. But Ethan Ning is already wealthy and powerful. He lacks neither money nor authority. With that confidence, he doesn't lack women either." I propped myself up on one arm and leaned toward him, smiling. "Does your Majesty know why these days I've liked holding gatherings in the palace and inviting noblewomen in?" Lucas Shen raised a brow. "Why?" I rested my chin on my hand and laughed softly. "Men do politics with blades and blood. You don't understand that peace and pleasure can bring results too. Do you think I host gatherings just to play? I've been working hard for you. When women gather, they talk about households and gossip. The more you hear, the better you understand officials. Not only what happens in court, but the mess inside their homes as well. And it just so happens, I heard some dirty business about Ethan Ning the other day." Lucas Shen's eyes showed clear interest, so I continued at an unhurried pace. "Ethan Ning made his fortune through his wife's family. His wife is a fierce woman who's kept him under her thumb for years. But lately, that fox is like an old house catching fire. He's fallen for a widow. It's gotten out of hand. He even bullied her into it and kept her as a mistress. He barely goes home anymore. He's always lingering at her place. Your Majesty can use that mistress as bait and pressure, Ethan Ning." Lucas Shen thought it over, then slowly smiled. "Mother Empress Dowager truly is my greatest help. How should I reward you?" I lowered my eyes and smiled. "If you truly care about me, let me have a few quiet days. You come here at night and make trouble so often. If someone catches you and word spreads and the censors hear, they might want to sacrifice me to heaven." Lucas Shen leaned in again, pressing my shoulders, lowering his face close, with a smile. "I'll follow Mother Empress Dowager's instruction, but tonight, give me a little sweetness to taste." As he spoke, he tried to slip his hand under my clothes again, roaming. I frowned at once and clutched my lower abdomen, feigning pain. I gave him a wan smile. "I'm unclean today. Let me off this once. There's plenty of time ahead." It scared him off for the moment, but he didn't leave. He wanted to stay the night. I was thinking of how to send him away when Clara rang the bronze bell at the doorway. "Mother Empress Dowager, something has happened in the palace. Eastern Depot men are ransacking Empress Dowager Chen's quarters." Lucas Shen's tenderness vanished at once. His face quickly turned dark and vicious. Lord Governor Li moved fast, precise and merciless. He didn't give the Son of Heaven even a moment to prepare. Lucas Shen and I went together to Nanyue Palace, Empress Dowager Chen's residence. Eastern Depot troops had surrounded Nanyue Palace so tightly it was airtight. Hundreds, thousands of torches lit the gilded palace bright as day. Alexander Li stood before the torchlight with his hands behind his back. His face was deathly pale. His features were stunning, almost demonic in their beauty. I hadn't seen Alexander Li for some time. I only heard about him. They said he investigated the Li clan's wrongful case day and night. They said his interrogations grew more brutal. They said he drank and indulged himself through the nights. A Lord Governor focused on his work produced visible results. This was the path he should take. If only he didn't ruin his body with drink. Hearing we had arrived, Alexander Li looked over through the flames. His gaze flicked across me without interest, then turned to Lucas Shen. A grim smile formed. He didn't bow to Lucas Shen. He simply stood tall and said, smiling, "It's just a search of an Empress Dowager. No need to alarm the Emperor." Lucas Shen's face went pale with rage, but he couldn't show it. He forced a vague smile. "Lord Governor, you've worked hard." When Alexander Li said, "Empress Dowager," something was clenched between his teeth. I shivered without meaning to. He seemed to notice. He looked at me again and sneered. "Tonight it's only the Eastern Empress Dowager. The Western Empress Dowager needn't worry." Hatred flared in his eyes, so obvious yet soundless. It turned into invisible blades, prying at the edges of my heart bit by bit. It wasn't a sudden stab. It was a fine, dense pain, You told yourself it didn't hurt. But the moment you pressed it down, another corner flared, then another, from every side, until you could barely breathe. I lowered my eyes. I couldn't look at him. One more glance and his gaze would suffocate me. Just then, shouting erupted from inside the hall. Maids were driven out in a rush, scattering like startled birds. Next, a crowd of Eastern Depot guards escorted Empress Dowager Chen out. Unlike before, when she was surrounded in reverence, this time she was surrounded and dragged out under arrest. Her hair was a mess. Her face was filthy. The once carefully maintained softness of her skin, without rouge or powder, looked wrecked and aged under the harsh torchlight. She still hadn't accepted the fate rushing toward her. She struggled desperately against the ropes on her wrists. When she saw Alexander Lee, her aged eyes lit up again. With all her strength, she fought free of the guards and ran at him. The noble Empress Dowager Chen forgot her dignity. She reached Alexander Lee and dropped to her knees, looking up at him in supplication. Her bound hands tugged at his red sleeve. "Lord Governor, for the sake of what we once had, save me." What we once had. I looked up at them. Alexander Lee's gaze drifted over, only by chance, and our eyes met for an instant. Empress Dowager Chen kept begging. Alexander Lee lowered his eyes, drew his bright sleeve from her hands and laughed softly. "I'm a broken man. How could I dare claim there was ever any bond with the Empress Dowager? If we're talking about bonds, Rosemary has a deeper bond with you." Rosemary induced hallucinations. Perhaps it was what he used to make the women of the harem feel pleasure. Empress Dowager Chen's face crumpled. She tried to cling to him again, to grab his sleeve, but he kicked her away. He lifted a hand, and the guards pinned her down again. Lucas Shen finally couldn't hold back. He tried to shout for them to stop. After all, Lucas Shen had been raised under Empress Dowager Chen's name. Their honor rose and fell together, but his command sounded weak. He ordered the Eastern Depot guards to stop, and they acted as if they hadn't heard. In unison, they looked to their Lord Governor. Alexander Lee walked to Lucas Shen, set a hand on his shoulder, and smiled lazily. "Your Majesty should spend more time on the court, less time rolling around in the harem." Lucas Shen's lips trembled with rage. Not a word came out. As he spoke, Alexander Lee turned his face slightly and looked at me with those gorgeous peach blossom eyes. "The Western Empress Dowager has time. You should recite more scriptures and learn proper morals. Set an example for the inner palace, so that one day you don't end up like this Eastern Empress Dowager, reduced to such a fate." I heard my own bleak laugh. "Lord Governor, you needn't concern yourself with me." That night, the Eastern Empress Dowager was strangled beneath the phoenix tree in Osprey Palace. The next night, Dowager Consort Yao was also strangled beneath the phoenix tree in Osprey Palace. Back then, Consort Lee had been strangled beneath that same phoenix tree in Osprey Palace by the Eastern Empress Dowager and Dowager Consort Yao. During the Lantern Festival, I spotted Alexander Lee in the packed crowd. He held a lantern. Leaning at his side was a young woman, vivid and bright. She was smiling, a small dimple at her lips. Her red dress was striking. Besides the lantern, he carried many little trinkets he'd just bought. His expression was gentle. They talked and laughed. No one noticed me a few yards away. I'd heard it before. Lord Governor Lee had picked up a girl named Ellie. He doted on her enough to set aside endless affairs and accompany her to stroll the Lantern Festival. The Lantern Festival was a day for lovers to meet. I didn't even know when the lantern in my hand fell. Not far away, drums and bells sounded again, and a new spectacle drew people in. Smiles filled their faces. I stood there blankly, moving against the flow, jostled again and again without feeling pain. I was a widowed Empress Dowager. Why had I come to join the excitement at a time like this? Only because Clara said Jinan City would be sleepless tonight. Lanterns and decorations everywhere, glittering lights like trees on fire. Endless lanterns hung all the way to the edge of the sky. Along the long streets were funny opera troupes, acrobats, all kinds of snacks, delicate jewelry. My heart had stirred. Was it such a grave sin for an Empress Dowager to play once in a while? Was it such foolish longing for Consort Ellie to crave festivity now and then? Now it seemed it was. I regretted it. I would rather have stayed in the silent, deep palace trimming candle wicks. Anything would be better than this. Other people's joy, other people's celebration. What did it have to do with me? Clara called to me, yanking my soul back. She smiled brightly. My steps were unsteady as I let her drag me to a new stall. People were shooting arrows to win prizes. Mostly men won gifts for the women they loved. Cheers rose in waves. The men who won were overjoyed, offering the prize to their sweethearts. The women blushed and resisted for a moment, then their hands and the gift were enclosed in their lovers' palms. They all smiled, sweet and gentle, pressing warmth into the heart. Clara leaned close and said enviously, "When will someone win a prize for me too?" I didn't answer. I only stared coldly at the prizes on the rack. They were all cheap little things. Yet if they were offered with care, after fighting through hardship, they became priceless. Love that made people blind. Someone squeezed in beside us, a flash of red that hurt the eyes. "Brother Lee, I like that little rabbit clay figure. Win it for me, will you?" A soft, sweet voice. I turned my head and ran straight into Alexander Lee's brilliant peach blossom eyes. He, like me, hadn't expected it. But he quickly recovered and said nothing. We both pretended we didn't know each other. That suffocating feeling rolled over my chest again. I wanted to pull Clara away, but she had already pushed to the front. She held up the rabbit clay figure and waved at me. "My lady, don't you like rabbits? I'll win it for you." Everyone around looked at me. I couldn't let Clara make a fool of herself alone in the crowd. I had no choice but to squeeze forward too. Clara was an idiot. She couldn't shoot at all. She raised the arrow and wobbled as she aimed. When she released, it fell to the ground before it even reached the target. Clara looked crushed. I couldn't shoot either. I held out my money pouch and asked the stall owner if I could buy it. He laughed. It was a festival prize. You could only win it with skill. We couldn't take the rabbit, but Alexander Lee could. That Ellie urged him forward to win. Clara and I retreated to the side and watched Alexander Lee raise the bow. Effortless, bullseye. Ellie clapped and laughed. The stall owner handed the rabbit to her. She beamed and ran to Alexander Lee's side. We didn't keep watching. We pushed out through the crowd. Clara still hung her head. I patted her and smiled. "It's not worth much. It doesn't matter." Clara lowered her head and muttered, "You haven't been happy lately. I just wanted to win something and make you happy. I'm useless." At first, I didn't feel anything. Consort Ellie had always wanted what she couldn't have. I was used to it. It was nothing. But this infuriating Clara always knew how to make you cry. I rubbed my eyelids, smiling as I did. Nonsense, I'm happy. I'm happy every day. What did I have to be unhappy about? Compared to nearly being buried with the dead before, at least now I was Empress Dowager. I wasn't short of food or clothing. I half squinted at the lantern-lit street ahead. The lights swam, dazzling. My eyes blurred. Just then, Clara suddenly stopped and turned back, running. Before I could stop her, she grabbed Alexander Lee and asked, "Lord Governor, can you give me the rabbit?" Stubborn Clara. That Ellie hugged the rabbit tight, her bright eyes wide as she glared at Clara, and at me as I chased after her. Alexander Lee said nothing. He looked at me. Flustered, I pulled Clara behind me and lifted my eyes with a smile at Alexander Lee. "She's being ridiculous. Don't mind her. You two keep enjoying yourselves." Alexander Lee still stared at me. Streetlights swam in his brilliant eyes. The glow was warm, yet a single glance made you feel cold. Like this, you once had something precious beyond measure. But in the end, it didn't belong to you. The better it was, the more unfair it felt, and it was fated. There was nothing you could do, no room even to struggle before sinking into the mire. I didn't dare look any longer. I hurriedly pulled Clara to turn and leave, but my wrist was seized in a hard grip. I struggled, but the pressure didn't yield. The Lord Governor, always domineering. "Why are you crying?" That low, heavy, muffled voice nearly broke my defenses again. I didn't know how many times my battered heart had already been steeped in sour jealousy. But this time, I managed to hold back the surging tears. I took a deep breath and glanced at Ellie's strange expression. Then I looked back at Alexander Lee and forced a smile. "Lord Governor, you're mistaken. It's such a good day. I'm happy, if anything. Why would I cry?" This time I tore free of his grip. Clara said she wanted to go to the lakeside, to set floating lanterns and make wishes. She went to buy the lamps. I sat by the lake and waited. The lights were dazzling, and yet my world suddenly went dark. Half awake, half aware, I heard a group of people talking. "A delicate little beauty like this, what a waste. She's about to be fed to the fish. Idiot. Have your fun first, then sink her. Who knows? Darkness crept in, inch by inch, gnawing at my mind. Make it count. Give her a heavy dose. Someone pinched my jaw and poured water into my mouth. Get her onto the boat. When we're done, toss her in the lake. No one will know. My hands and feet were bound. I was thrown onto a bed. It swayed violently. We were already on a painted pleasure boat. I heard men's rough, lust-choked voices, the ripping of fabric, filthy demons closing in. Someone gripped my ankle. Someone pinned my wrists. Someone tore away the last strip of silk at my throat. Ellie Tan really was cursed. I'd only wanted a little fun, and this was how it ended. I wasn't willing. Not at all. Why the rush? Once the drug hits, the little slut will come to us on her own. My whole body went slack, then hot, heat blooming, flushing me through. They started untying the ropes on my hands and feet. They knew that once it took hold, I wouldn't have the strength to fight. I drove my sharp nails into the soft flesh of my thigh, cutting, digging in. It hurt, but not enough to stop the madness surging through me. They chuckled low. Little lady, want a man? I bit my lip hard and clenched the bedsheet beneath me. A trembling sound slipped from my mouth. I was going to lose my mind. So were the men. I shut my eyes in despair. Then I heard several muffled grunts. Scalding, sticky blood splattered my bare arm. Someone wiped the blood from my skin with warm fingertips. But a man's touch was the deadliest thing right then. My legs rubbed together uncontrollably. My feet curled, trembling. I cracked my eyes open. The last threads of reason were being burned away by a wildfire of desire. The one who came was the one I wanted, and the one I could never have. With bloodshot eyes, I clenched my teeth and told him, Alexander Lee, don't touch me. He didn't listen. He caught my ankle and pressed himself over me. There were no lamps, only a few blurred patches of light slipping in through the window. I couldn't make out his expression. In the dimness, he covered my pale body with his lips, inch by inch. Again and again, he kissed away my tears. No, I don't want you. I couldn't. Alexander Lee, don't you know? You and Ellie Tan already went wrong once. We can't go wrong again. He cradled my face in both hands, his lips pressed to my forehead. His voice was heavy. Right now, I'm all you can want. It was an aphrodisiac with no cure. If we delayed, my veins would rupture. I would die. Without giving me a choice, he forced his way into that forbidden world. Wrong again, and again. I heard my own shocked, helpless moan and his rough, blurred breathing. I couldn't resist. His lips brushed my jaw and caught my earlobe. Do you want me? He deliberately stopped at the brink, refusing to go further. He wanted to force me to admit it, to say I wanted him. In the darkness, his lips looked especially red, like grape wine in a crystal cup, wet, tempting, intoxicating. I bit my lip until it stung. I couldn't want him, but fireworks were detonating in my blood. He stared hard into my eyes, testing the limits of my restraint. I was the one drugged, not him. The hollow behind my knees burned, the emptiness burned. I wanted to be filled, completely, but the man on top of me was my brother. The blood in our bones was proof I could never erase. Ellie, do you want Brother Lee? He thrust once, opening me. He bent to my ear and coaxed, Be good, Ellie. Tell Brother Lee you want him. My blood boiled, flushing my pale skin red, scorching it. It smeared against a man's hard chest and body, a wildfire that would not die, burning propriety, shame, ethics, everything, into ash. Ellie wants Brother Lee, only Brother Lie. Destruction and despair. I couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything. I let go of everything. My long legs wrapped around his strong waist, but he seized one leg and pressed it down. Frenzied wrapping, tangling, tightening, until we carved each other into bone-deep memory. Hot sweat poured down like rain, waist, collarbone fullness, slick and wet, water rushing, sticky and clinging. He threaded his fingers through mine and gripped tight, as if splitting heaven and earth. We became one, body and soul fused. The night wind rose and the rain turned fierce. In the black, heavy night, the narrow cabin was seized by thunder and storm, dragged into a raging whirlpool. In the heaving waves, we sank into a boundless abyss, a 10,000-foot deep sea with no dawn, never to see daylight again. We didn't stop until midnight. A thunderstorm rose over the river, wind after wind, rain after rain, chill after chill. The molten blaze of that eruption slowly faded. Alexander Lee pinned my legs between his, and stray light from nowhere stained our tangled robes, deep purple and bright red, into darker, richer shades. My half-bared legs looked even whiter. I had no strength left. He held me trapped in his arms. I lowered my head to look at our interlaced fingers. Every vein in my body tingled and my head rang. What had I done? The law would never allow it. The world would spit on it. It was monstrous. As my lost reason and rules seeped back, cruel words spilled from my exhausted lips. Alexander Lee, take me back to the Imperial Palace. My face was buried against his bare chest. I didn't look at him. The instant I spoke, his body went still. His voice was hoarse. And then, I forced out the rest. Lord Governor Lee and I. There is no then. His fingers around mine went cold. He said nothing. After a long silence, he pushed me away without a word. He got up, straightened his clothes, and went to the window. He stopped there, back to me, watching the rain. Fishing lanterns on the river lit the rain, bleak and blurred. His silhouette looked lonely and grim, plated in night. I picked up my red belly band. The thin silk was wrinkled from his hands. With 2 fingers, I pulled it back over my cold body. Piece by piece, I dressed again. I braced myself on the bed and stood unsteady. By the window, he suddenly let out a cold laugh. In bed, it's Brother Lee. Out of bed, I'm nothing. If I'd known, I shouldn't have come. Whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. That deep regret and hatred cut colder than the rain outside. My tears nearly shook loose. I bit down hard on my lower lip and forced the pain back down. I'll repay what I owe you. Wave after wave of river rain drowned the silence in the cabin. At last, when the night rain eased, he left the narrow cabin first. His heavy black boots paused at the threshold. Do you know why I came? He raised his hand. In it was a little clay rabbit. In the hazy night, it looked painfully white. I thought you were still like you were when you were little. If you couldn't get what you wanted, you'd cry. When we were children, a little house servant would do anything to keep the illegitimate little girl from feeling wronged, from shedding tears. He always found a way to win her the prizes she wanted. It wasn't the same now. The valve holding back my tears was loosening again, trembling. I had to fight to weld it shut, to bar the door. Not a single tear. I stared with dry eyes and watched him, without a trace of attachment, toss the little rabbit into the dark river. A dull splash, and it sank straight down. In the end, guards from the Eastern Depot escorted me back. Lucas Shen stood at the Vermilion Palace gate, face cold, hands behind his back. He demanded, "Where did Mother go to make trouble tonight?" I was exhausted. I didn't answer. I dragged my heavy steps into the black depths of the palace, as if daylight would never come again. But Lucas Shen wouldn't let me go. He seized my hand and, like a madman, dragged me toward my palace. The moment we entered, he drove all the maids out. He kicked the doors shut. He didn't even wait to reach the bed. He slammed me against a deep red pillar, inlaid with gold, and kissed me viciously. I kicked and shoved. In the struggle, I slapped him hard across the face. He lifted his eyes to stare at me in disbelief. Then he raised a hand and slowly pressed his fingers to the red mark on his cheek. His gaze turned sinister, and a chilling smile crept over his lips. "Aren't you fond of me? Then why won't you even get into bed with me?" I looked at him with reddened eyes. My voice was hoarse, breaking. "I'm tired. Not tonight." He gripped my wrist hard. His voice turned ice cold by my ear. "Do you know how long I waited? I thought you liked the Thousand Lantern Festival. I lit tens of thousands of lamps in the palace. I wanted to watch them with you. I waited from dusk to dark, from dark to midnight. I even thought you ran away." So it wasn't his trap? If his acting was really that flawless, it was almost impressive. I stared at him in silence. As he spoke, he suddenly laughed, cold to the bone. "Forget it." He pinched my chin, forcing my gaze into his. "Do you think this palace is too quiet? Fine, give me a prince. Leaven it up. Then you won't be like a kite with no string, drifting with nowhere to land." I looked at him and let out a low laugh. "You still want me? Outside the palace, I ran into villains. I was dragged onto a boat and violated. I'm filthy now. If the Eastern Depot guards hadn't been patrolling, I'd already be sunk and fed to the fish." Lucas Shen's face crumbled, inch by inch, into darkness. Those deep, blue-tinged eyes slowly filled with killing frost. After that, he called in maids to draw my bath. I washed once. He said it wasn't enough and forced me to wash again and again and again. My delicate skin was rubbed raw, red everywhere, broken in places. He tormented me for a long time. Only when he went to court did I finally get to rest. I was exhausted, but it was fine. I had protected the secret, barely, and, conveniently, made Lucas Shen disgusted by my body. Nothing could be better. The one who tried to kill me that night wasn't Lucas Shen. It was the Grand Tutor, Lucas Shen's adoptive father. Father and son, cut from the same cloth, worthless except when it came to bullying women. The Grand Tutor did it for Lucas Shen's sake. If word got out about anything incestuous between the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, it would be absurd. He went to endless lengths for his adopted son. The Grand Tutor's only biological son had died of a high fever as a child. So he poured all his fatherly love into Lucas Shen, and Lucas Shen repaid him. Even though I had nearly died, he only soothed me. The Grand Tutor is old, he has no sons, he's pitiful, let it go. I sneered. A father for a day is a father for life. My life is worth nothing. How would I dare complain? I needed to go to the Eastern Depot's Imperial Prison and retrieve an edict. By coincidence, my second uncle from the Tan family committed a crime and was seized and thrown into the Imperial Prison of the Eastern Depot. I had a legitimate reason to visit the prison, but I was stopped. The depot guard said that even if the Son of Heaven came, he couldn't enter. The Imperial Prison of the Eastern Depot recognized only Lord Governor Li's written order. Near dusk, the prison beneath the towering walls lay in half-light. It never saw daylight, cold to the bone. Crows swept overhead. The Eastern Depot was torturing someone. From the gaps in the heavy bronze doors came sharp, terrifying screams, now and then. I stood outside the prison gate, hesitating, when someone came down the long corridor carrying a lantern. Footsteps drew near. The lantern slowly lit the man's face. It lit a face breathtakingly beautiful, without the slightest hint of a smile. He was as cold as the prison walls and bronze handles, unapproachable, expressionless. His lantern lit my face for a brief moment. Then he brushed past me, and my face sank back into shadow, so dark I nearly ceased to exist. The instant the heavy bronze door creaked open, I turned and ran to him. I stopped one step away, pinched his sleeve between two fingers, and said urgently, "Alexander Li, I want to go into the Imperial Prison and see my second uncle." In this half-dark hour, frost and dew had fallen. His brows and lashes held that chill. His gaze was cold, sharp. "Why do you think I'll let you summon me whenever you want, and dismiss me whenever you want?" As he spoke, he brushed my fingers off his sleeve in disgust. Disdain, loathing, so I could still be cut down that way. I drew my hand back and let it fall at my sides. My wide sleeves hid my trembling fingertips and the fine, dense wounds, so I was this fragile. He ignored me and stepped into the icy black prison with his lantern. As the door was about to close, I reached out in a daze to stop it. A sudden agony, so sharp I couldn't even cry out. My finger joints felt as if they would shatter, when another hand, larger, not mine, covered mine. That hand took the crushing pain for me. Dark red bruising, blue-black swelling. The door opened, he yanked me into the gaping darkness and, looming above me in the black, snapped coldly, "If you want to die, don't drag someone else with you." I bit my lip. Tears filled my eyes. I could only lower my head as tear after tear struck the icy floor. "I'm sorry." His voice stayed hard and guarded. "What are you trying to do now? That trick with tears? You already used it once. I won't fall for it again." Yet even as he spoke coldly, he reached out and caught the stream of tears in his hand beneath my face. I lifted my face to him, cheeks wet. His expression was still frightening. For one instant, I wanted to tell him everything. "You're my brother, but we did what we shouldn't have." What do we do? And the worst part isn't what we already did. It's that the longing is still there. What do we do? Can we run away? Leave this place, leave everyone, just you and me. We'll love each other. Like ordinary people. You'd just be my little house servant, the one who can stay with the illegitimate little girl forever. Would you? Ellie Tan was terrifyingly weak, terrifyingly ignorant. Alexander Li, if... He lowered his gaze and looked at me in silence. From deep inside the Imperial Prison came a woman's shriek, miserable and piercing. It swallowed what little courage I had in a single bite. He glanced back once. Seeing my face go pale, he said calmly, "That's an incestuous whore. Ignore it." My courage collapsed. I didn't continue. Neither did he. He walked ahead with the lantern, carving light into the darkness inch by inch. I followed through the black. Slowly I saw light, but only briefly, then it dimmed again. Someone came to report to him. He glanced at me, then stepped aside with the man to speak. I stood in the darkness, unseen. Behind me was a stone step. I reached back and felt around, and found the edict. Then my stomach began to cramp, and I started bleeding. In secret, I had Grace take my pulse. Her expression shifted, almond eyes widening. "You're pregnant, nearly 2 months. Have you had rough sex recently? The fetus is unstable. Do you want medicine to protect it, or medicine to end it?" I slumped against the couch, staring blankly at the plane trees outside the window in the fine rain. Autumn rain. Yellow blossoms smashed into the ground. I'd heard that incest between siblings could produce deformed children. One generation's suffering was enough. There was no need to pass it on. But this unexpected life was stubborn. No one cared, yet it sprouted and grew in secret. I covered my lower belly. The sensation was strange. Nothing moved, yet it felt vivid, as if a frail, tender little finger touched my palm and lightly scratched it. Even my ears seemed to catch a child's thin voice calling again and again, "Mother." It was like being trapped in a maze I couldn't escape. I could see the bright exit, yet my feet wouldn't move. I didn't want to leave. I was willing to be trapped, willing to imprison myself. I made an excuse. I couldn't end it yet. The Mid-Autumn Festival was coming soon. Soon everything would be settled. I asked for medicine to protect the pregnancy, along with several other medicines. Grace belonged to Alexander Lee, but she had real medical ethics. She would keep my secret. Lucas Shen captured Ethan Ning's kept woman. Ethan Ning, that fox who always knew which way the wind blew, was also hopelessly devoted. He led the embroidered uniform guard and pledged loyalty to Lucas Shen. The palace began to hang lanterns and decorations, preparing for the mid-autumn banquet for the officials. Lucas Shen planned to use that night of full moon and flowers to join with the embroidered uniform guard and wipe out the Eastern Depot. On the eve of mid-autumn, I had Grace deliver a letter to Alexander Lee for me. As soon as Grace left, Lucas Shen came. Ever since he learned I'd been violated, he hadn't come once. Perhaps now he thought he was about to win and wanted somewhere to vent his joy. He wasn't disgusted anymore. He pinned me before a half-lit screen, gripped my chin, and kissed me, kissing as he undid my gauze robe. I pressed both hands to his chest and forced a smile. "But I'm not clean." For once, he didn't get angry. He lifted one finger to my lips and smiled gently. "Are you angry? It was my fault. That matter is over. From now on, you'll only be my woman. No one else will ever touch you again." I sneered. "Do you think the censers are ornaments?" He pulled me close, caught one of my fingers, and slipped it into his mouth, licking it. His eyes, stirred with lust, curved as he smiled. "Tomorrow Alexander Lee will die. No one will dare point fingers at me again. You and I can stay together forever." "You're always joking. You'll stay with your empress." "Don't always speak coldly to me. I have my reasons." I laughed at him. "Oh, what reasons? When you gave me to your father? When I lost favor and you never asked after me? On the way to Nine Terrace Mountain to pray to heaven, you used my life to test Lord Governor Lee. And your adoptive father tried to kill me, and you only told me to swallow it. I'm curious, what are your reasons?" His throat bobbed. His eyes darkened. He reached up to toy with the tassel earring by my ear. Then, lashes lowered, he said in a low, eerie voice, "He isn't my father, and the Grand Tutor isn't my adoptive father. He's my real father." I stared at Lucas Shen in shock. He kissed the edge of my ear and chuckled softly. "Absurd, right? Back then I truly wanted to marry you." The Eastern Palace was hung with lanterns full of celebration. After the auspicious day was chosen, I counted down every day. But that old man summoned me, in Grandlight Hall. There was a painting of a beauty on the wall. The beauty was you. He told me he liked you. He wanted you. It's not like I didn't refuse, but the Grand Tutor told me I wasn't true royal blood. I was a counterfeit. I had no right, no backbone to stop that old man. What he wanted, no one could stop it then. So it was the Grand Tutor's trick, swapping the heir like trading a cat for a prince. "I used you, but I won't hurt you. From now on, everything will be fine. You have to believe me." Lucas Shen didn't understand me at all. He thought I was some saint who let people trample her. He was wrong. Ellie Tan was petty, and she repaid every debt. Now he wore that affectionate mask. The only person Lucas Shen truly loved was himself. Women, to him, were ornaments. I lowered my eyes and smoothed his collar, asking softly, Then who was the real crown prince? How did the Grand Tutor switch him? Lucas Shen held my hand. After a long pause, he said, "None of that matters anymore. Be more considerate of me. I've walked this path in terror. Now I'm finally close to winning. Don't be angry with me anymore. Can I stay the night with you?" He didn't wait for my answer. He picked me up and set me on the bed, leaning in. His fingertips slid from my chin to the hollow between my collarbones, then hooked lower. The pale, lotus-colored belly band loosened. His palm was just about to close over me. I had been forcing it down, but I couldn't anymore. I vomited. The imperial physician diagnosed pregnancy. He even gave the dates. By the timing, this child wasn't conceived on the Thousand Lantern Festival. It was before the heaven sacrifice. Back then, Alexander Lee came to Osprey Palace every night. Lucas Shen understood completely. His face turned iron blue. Veins bulged on his forehead. His low voice sounded like it rose from hell. So it was him, again. Him, fine. Back then I should have killed that little house servant. Back then? What back then? I stared at him, confused. His cold palm slid up to my throat, and he smiled darkly. Back then, he wanted to elope with you. He thought I didn't know? After you entered the palace, I had him seized. I had him stuffed into a sack and beaten until he went silent, then thrown into the lake. Who knew that low-born slave, hell wouldn't take him? A fisherman saved him. My fingertips went cold, trembling. At last I understood why Alexander Lee hated me. I'd always wondered what right he had. Now I knew. My stupid teenage love had nearly buried him. He should hate me. But why didn't he hate me to the end? Why did he still come back, again and again, to my side? My voice thickened with tears as I let out a low laugh. Lucas Shen, you're despicable. You make me sick, sick to my bones. I must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to get tangled up with someone like you. His gaze turned vicious, like a reaper's. The hand on my throat shifted from caressing to strangling. His grip tightened. I couldn't breathe. By my ear, his laughter was like the underworld. "Oh, right. That fisherman's daughter is also called Ellie. Same name as you. She's the daughter of Alexander Lee's savior. But she's nothing like her father. She craves wealth and status. She obeys me. I even promised her that when it was done, I'd make her a consort. But she's not worthy. The only one I want is you. I'd planned to share the victory with you. But what a pity. You're carrying this bastard. Too dirty. I can't tolerate you being this filthy. When I can't have something, I like to destroy it. So, you and that bastard can die." My breath thinned. Fine. This was fine. What I could do for Alexander Lee, what I owed him, I'd done. Let it end here. I closed my eyes and let a smile bloom. People are born crying. When you die, leave smiling. This life was too bitter. So many images rose up. In every one, there was Alexander Lee. So Ellie Tan's short life had been entwined with him. I hadn't realized how tightly I clung to him, until the moment of death, when every word he'd ever said returned to me with brutal clarity. "Master, if it hurts, bite my arm. Master, whatever you want, Ali will win it for you. Master, keep up. Don't get lost. Consort, aren't you already above everyone? How did you end up like this? Consort, I'm above everyone now. Why won't you come provoke me? Consort, I've wanted you for a long time. Consort, I'm your servant. Why would I be angry at you? Consort, if someone bites you, won't you bite back? Consort, you're always so ruthless. It isn't fair to me at all. If you don't think of me, then I'll think of you. I'm sentimental. I haven't forgotten you for a moment. I want your body and your heart. Your heart is iron. It doesn't hurt and it doesn't bleed. Unlike mine is hot blood and flesh. It bleeds. It hurts. And I keep doing stupid things again and again, holding it out for you to trample. What a pity. I couldn't tell him myself. Alexander Lee, my brother. No, I could never admit he was my brother. He was only my little house servant, my beloved little house servant. He won. He had already won my heart, completely. My heart was iron to everyone else. Only with him was it different. With him, it was fragile, breakable. This battered, sensitive heart would only ache and bleed for him. Just before my consciousness vanished, Lucas Shen's icy voice suddenly turned bright with vulgar delight. What if I tell Alexander Lee the bastard you're carrying is mine? How do you think he'll react? Before he dies, he'll think his woman is carrying another man's child. That's the kind of kill that cuts straight through the heart. Yes, that would be fun. Oh right, I just thought of another game. Tell me, between the two Ellies, which one matters more to Alexander Lee? One is his savior, the other is his lover. Time never stops for anyone's fear. It keeps moving, hurrying forward. The mid-autumn banquet arrived as scheduled. Everywhere, warm fragrance and rich flowers, soft music and bright lanterns. The imperial palace, once gloomy as a haunted place, now, strangely, glittered with harmony and splendor. I appeared at the banquet, but not as the Empress Dowager. Lucas Shen held me and seated me in the place of honor. He lied without blinking. Smiling at the officials below, he said, "The Empress Dowager is unwell tonight and won't attend. This is a beauty sent from Great Liang. I'm very pleased. She's already carrying my child 2 months." I stared in panic at Alexander Li in blazing red robes at the head seat. I watched his expression grow colder and colder. The crystal cup in his hand looked ready to shatter. Maybe it already had. Each shard stabbed into my heart until it bled, yet I couldn't cry out. Lucas Shen's palm tightened at my waist. His lips brushed my ear. "Those beautiful eyes of yours can only look at me." He peeled a grape and pressed the glistening green flesh hard to my lips. Juice spilled everywhere. I refused to eat it, so he covered my mouth with his in full view of everyone. He used his tongue to force the grape into my mouth. My nails dug into the table. The gaze from the head seat made me choke. Then, in the middle of the music and dancing, came a heavy crash. Lucas Shen pulled back and looked over. Alexander Li had kicked the table. His hand went to his embroidered spring saber as he surged to his feet, thunderous. His gaze swept the room, storm clouds on his face, killing cold in the air around him. Lucas Shen laughed softly. "What is Lord Governor Li doing? Is the food unsuitable or the wine not sweet enough?" Alexander Li's icy eyes flicked to my belly. Then, like a hawk, they locked on Lucas Shen. After a moment, he touched the white jade thumb ring, and the anger on his face thinned into a cool, narrow smile. "A beauty from Great Liang? Why haven't I heard of this? Perhaps she's a spy. Men, seize this beauty and take her back to the Eastern Depot for interrogation." The hall erupted. Red-robed depot guards moved in. Guards from the Western Depot surged forward as well. Lucas Shen stroked my cheek and smiled darkly. Then he lifted his cup and smashed it to the floor. Ethan Ning led the embroidered uniform guard as they poured in from all sides. The embroidered uniform guard and the Western Depot raised their swords together, aimed at the Eastern Depot. Triumph spread across Lucas Shen's face. He pulled me into his arms and looked at Alexander Li with a curved smile. "Lord Governor Li is going to be disappointed. After tonight, the Eastern Depot will be gone." Alexander Li didn't move. He stood there, calm as still water, and sneered. "I warned you. Behave yourself, and you might have had a few more peaceful days. You really don't listen." By every measure, Lucas Shen had the advantage. But Alexander Li's usual dominance carried weight. Seeing him so steady, Lucas Shen wavered for a beat, then recovered and snapped. "I have to admire you, Lord Governor Li, still stubborn with death at your door. But before you die, there's one thing I want you to do for me." The fisherman's daughter, Ellie, was dragged up, bound. Dark blood stained her lips. Her eyes were full of dewy tears, pitiful as she looked at Alexander Li. She called, "Brother Li, save me." My chest tightened. A metallic sweetness rose in my throat. I braced myself on the table and lowered my face. Blood was already at the corner of my mouth. Lucas Shen had fed poison to both Ellies, but he had only one antidote. He tossed the small porcelain bottle at Alexander Li and laughed wildly. "Lord Governor Li, choose one." I kept my head lowered, but Lucas Shen wouldn't allow it. He pinched my chin and forced me to watch Alexander Li choose. Alexander Li's expression shifted, just slightly. He stood still, unmoving. That Ellie cried and begged. I stayed silent. Any choice was wrong. Lucas Shen's intent was too obvious, too vicious. He pressed his cheek to mine and laughed coldly. "Look, Mother, you're carrying his child, but you're not the one he'll choose without hesitation. Wasn't it the same last time? My people held you hostage. He didn't save you right away. Mother, do you see it now?" I was forced to stare at Alexander Li. He stared back at me. Tears streamed down my face. I gave him a small smile. "Don't mind me. I owe you." He and I both knew what I meant. I had written to him. On mid-autumn night, the embroidered uniform guard would pretend to submit to Lucas Shen. Then Lord Governor Li could join with them and launch a coup. The edict was in the letter. I played along at Lucas Shen's side, dealt with noble women, left the palace to have fun, all to get close to Ethan Ning's kept woman and win Lucas Shen's trust. Lucas Shen thought capturing that woman would force Ethan Ning to surrender. But I did it differently. I told Ethan Ning everything Lucas Shen planned. A fox like Ethan Ning couldn't be threatened, but he could be tempted. I made a pact with him. When it was done, his kept woman would be granted a title and given proper standing. The embroidered uniform guard pledged themselves to me. An edict without military power was nothing but paper. Only soldiers mattered. I'd done everything I could. The only thing was, the edict spoke only of appointment. It didn't mention that we were bound by sibling blood. In my letter, I didn't mention it either. I had no face to. I wanted that secret to stay a secret forever. At last, Alexander Lee made his choice. He walked to the fisherman's daughter and fed her the only antidote. Lucas Shen kissed my cheek and smiled, sinister. Mother, he chose her. I clutched the edge of the table and spat out a weak mouthful of blood. Lucas Shen looked to Ethan Ning and ordered, Ethan Ning, do it. But Ethan Ning didn't move. He looked at me and smiled. Consort, shall we? The air around Lucas Shen went instantly cold and suffocating. I lifted my pale, shattered face and smiled at Lucas Shen. Lucas Shen, you don't understand me at all. I repay every wrong, every grudge. From the moment you offered me to that old emperor, there hasn't been a moment I didn't want you dead. I watched his face collapse, inch by inch, into ruin. The sweetness of it filled me. I didn't look at Lucas Shen again. I searched instead. Just to see Alexander lie one last time. His hand trembled. He couldn't even hold his embroidered spring saber. It clattered to the floor. He looked at me in panic, his face bloodless, his once vivid, alluring lips drained of color. He lurched as he ran toward me. I had never seen him like this. He had always been in control. He had always known he would win. So why was he panicking now? Did he think he'd chosen wrong? He knew Lucas Shen as well as I did. Lucas Shen would never truly give him the right to choose. Whoever he chose, that would be the one who died. I knew it. The little house servant would never abandon the illegitimate little girl. Every time. Every single time. No matter how harsh his words, he never had the heart. I knew it. I knew it all. The little house servant always favored the illegitimate little girl. Openly, shamelessly, unmistakably. My loyal little house servant. Don't look so frightened. You chose right. He finally reached me and wrapped me in his arms, holding me tight, as if I might turn to smoke the next moment. And he had to fight with everything in him to keep me from vanishing. I bit my lip hard and lifted a hand to touch his peach blossom eyes, shimmering with tears. With effort, I forced out a pale smile. Little house servant, you chose right. You did well. In the end, I used my last breath to give the order. Everything follows Lord Governor Lee's command. Then I sank into endless darkness. Long ago, when she was very small, Ellie Tan promised her little house servant, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Ellie Tan might be vile, she might be lowly, but at least once she kept her word. We had walked too long together in the dark. I wanted to hold the bright light in my hands and give it to my little house servant. I wanted him to live in daylight with all my strength. Epilogue: Yongnan, a family-run tavern. I was bent over the abacus when a low, familiar voice reached my ears. Ellie Tam. Long time no see. My fingers froze on the beads. I looked up. 2 years later, Alexander Lee appeared in this southern town where spring had warmed everything and birds flitted over new grass. He was standing in my tavern. The corners of his peach blossom eyes were flushed, as vivid as if brushed with bright rouge. His lips, too, were strikingly red. People came and went. Girls and women passing by kept turning to stare at him beside the tall counter. I rubbed my eyes. It felt like a dream I hadn't woken from. After a moment, I spun around and ran for the back courtyard. Yes. Back then, he hadn't chosen wrong. I'd vomited blood because I took Grace's medicine. I couldn't face him, and I'd done something defiant, too. I was going to bring into the world a bloodline the world would never tolerate. With Ethan Ning and Grace helping me, I faked my death and fled. And I gave birth to Kelly, my lovely, healthy little girl. She was fine. Everything about her was fine. She was as beautiful as Alexander Lee. I lived the free life I wanted. A thriving tavern, an adorable daughter, and a loyal servant. Alexander Lee also became someone truly beyond reach. No one could bully him again. We both got what we wanted. In the end, he still caught my hand and pinned me beneath the gray barber. His eyes were red. He wouldn't let me say a word. He just bit down on my lips, hard, his tongue forcing past my teeth and invading. First a light bite, then again and again he sucked, as if he meant to swallow every breath I had. Like there was only today and no tomorrow. He was ruthless. I nearly suffocated. My tongue and lips were swollen and numb. The grape arbor collapsed. He swept me up in his arms and barged into a storage room. The room was piled with countless odds and ends, tables, stools, bolts of silk, hanging drapes. He braced me amid the clutter and, breathless and hurried, shoved my skirt up to my waist. His palm covered the slick hollow of my snow-white thigh, spread me apart, and then thrust in violently. Each time was deeper than the last, heavier than the last. Clearly, profoundly, he merged into me and I into him. Scalding sweat splashed onto trembling snowy peaks, and he lowered his mouth to take them in. Hot sweat or tears soaked my body. Buried against my chest, he bit and growled his threat. Ellie Tan, so what if I'm your brother? So what if it's incest? I'm your man. My head swayed, dizzy and ringing. You know, and you still do this. We can't. He seized my wrist and slammed in again, his voice turning harsh. What can't? The child's already here. What can't we do? Not only can we'll have another, 2, 3. I stared at him, unable to believe it. He stared back at me in silence. My eyes slowly reddened. No, I'm scared. When I had Kelly, I was terrified she'd be missing an arm or a leg. Even now, I'm scared something will happen to her one day. No, I can't ever again. That kind of defiance, that kind of terror that stopped your heart, a person could only endure it once in a lifetime. I shook as I cried. He finally stopped threatening me. He cupped my face in both hands, bent to kiss away my tears, and his voice softened into a low coax. All right, don't be afraid, Ellie. I'm just your brother Lee, not your brother. We don't share a drop of blood. I sobbed and looked at him. He sighed quietly. My mother was consort Lai. There was a great fire back then. Her people sent me away. Your mother took me in. My voice was thick, nasal. But the old emperor said. He was wrong. Back then, when your brother was sent to the Grand Tutor's household, he came down with a high fever. The Grand Tutor was afraid the emperor would blame him, so he used his own son, Lucas Shen, as a substitute. For the outside world, he lied that his own son died of the fever. The day we reunited, because of what I'd done 2 years ago, and because I left without a word, Alexander Lee held me down on the bed and bullied me all night. He even did it on purpose, coaxing me again and again. Be good, Ellie. Say it. Brother Lee, Ellie wants it. I wouldn't say it, so he tormented me even more. All I could do was moan, again and again, until my voice was hoarse. At dawn, he still wanted to keep going in broad daylight. Thank heaven, Kelly started crying in the cradle. Alexander Lee froze. Then he quickly climbed off me and clumsily went to soothe our daughter. That was the only reason I escaped. I folded the blanket, then turned back to look at the two of them. Morning light drifted in like mist. Alexander Lee stood in the sun, lifting Kelly high until she giggled, and he laughed too. His lips curved like a whole river of spring. For no reason, my eyes stung. I called softly, Brother Lee? This time he didn't need to coax me. I meant it. He looked over. Those bright, dazzling peach blossom eyes curved too, like a pool of spring water.